famous for perfecting the assembly line that would bear his name and producing automobiles. He hired an electrical genius named Charlie Steinmetz to build the generators for his factory. But one day, the generators stopped working. So he called Mr. Charlie to come back and try to fix the problem. He only worked for a short time and threw a switch. Mr. Ford was amazed. Everything worked perfectly again. But soon he received the bill for $10,000. Mr. Ford demanded a reason, and Mr. Steinmetz simply stated he was charging Mr. Ford $10 for tinkering with the generators, and $9,990 for knowing exactly where to tinker. And of course, Mr. Ford had to pay the bill. It pays to have wisdom, and there's a great need of it in our world today. A lack of wisdom is destroying the lives of many young people. When you read the newspaper or watch television, you see that there are marriages destroyed, friendships lost, souls are in danger all around us. Even our government seems doomed because of a lack of wisdom. What is the answer? We simply need to be wise. What we need to do is walk in the ways of wisdom. We need to seek godly paths, and Proverbs is the perfect book to get us back on the right road. And Proverbs was specifically written to give us the wisdom for our daily living, and that's why the word wisdom appears 51 times in the book of Proverbs alone. Proverbs is written for people of all ages. Solomon says to the young man, it will bring knowledge and discretion. To the older and wiser man, it will provide increased learning. And to the man of understanding, it will reveal his wise counsel. Solomon wants us to learn how to act righteously, treat others fairly, and avoid foolishness, so that way we can avoid foolish mistakes. Let me share 3 great Proverbs with you. The first scripture that I want to share is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." Have you ever had to drive somewhere and didn't quite know where you were going? Maybe you bought a map or brought a GPS or consulted a map of the area. But one way or another, it's difficult to get to a destination if you haven't visited before. A few years ago, my father volunteered to drive home from a trip taken across the central part of the United States. My mother fell asleep in the passenger seat, and when she woke up, he had driven 100 miles in the wrong direction. When you're headed down the road of life, you need direction, and you need a navigator. God will always be there for you, and if you trust in him, he will direct you in the right path. Another scripture that we can consider is Proverbs chapter 20, verse 11, which says, "Even a child is known by his actions, by whether his conduct is pure and right." Solomon points out that even small children who are innocent and pure and get away with pretty much everything, if they're cute enough, are still known by their actions. This reminds us of what Jesus said about people being known by their fruit. If you see a person in prison, what do you assume? They are being held for a crime. If you see a person crying alone in a cemetery, what do you assume? They are grieving. If you see a person going to church and living a godly life, what do you assume? They want to be like Jesus. The same is true for a person who is filling their life with negative things or selfishness. That will come out. The last wise saying that I want to share with you is Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, which says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the countenance of his friend." For dozens of generations, people have lived out of these book of Proverbs. In fact, many older Christians love this book, and they love teaching this book. I heard one older man say that there's a reason why there are 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, one for every day of the month. The Proverbs teach us how to treat our neighbor, love people, be a good business person, lead a nation, worship God, and even how to find a spouse. Before we close, let me remind you of the story about Henry Ford. He was a genius when it came to automobiles and production lines, but yet he couldn't quite figure out how to work a generator. Cars can have several gears, and to walk in the ways of wisdom, I try to put them in a spiritual context. First, there's park. You're just stuck in your faith. Second, there's reverse. You're going in a complete and opposite direction. Next is drive. Neutral is when you're riding the fence. Next is drive. You're going through your life, moving forward without delay. Finally, all-wheel drive. You're ready for anything that Satan can possibly throw at you. You've lived your life long enough to know how things should operate. Like Henry Ford, you can know which gears to engage and which ones to avoid. But what happens when the trials come and everything just seems to stand still? Henry Ford knew who to call. Do you know who to call? He sought the wisdom of the designer. Likewise, we should seek our designer, our creator, the only one who has enough wisdom to solve all of our problems. We'll never get off the conveyor belt of life. 2 times in this book, Solomon says, "There's a way that seems right to man, but in the end is the way of death." Life is tough, but if you follow the Lord and seek the right path and trust in the wisdom of the designer, I promise you that you won't regret it. Thank you.